What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's College Football Saturday, Week 1. We do apologize. Had a little bit of a technical issue to get the good show started here, but we're live. It's the closing line here for September 1st, 2018. We're into September, Donnie. That means one thing. What does that mean to you? That means football coming at you for the next several months. You excited, Donnie?
Jeff, I have my baseball card ready to go. We're going to break down the entire card in Major League Baseball over the next 45 minutes. Who can complain about that, right?
No, we're not talking fucking baseball. No baseball no more. We're done with that crap. Thank God. Let's kind of jump right into it. We'll go over a lot of stuff. We'll go over most of the card. I'll try to get to as many games as I can. We'll try to take some questions, and we'll have some fun along the way. Welcome into everyone out there. Hopefully you enjoy this show. Hit the like button for us. Let us know you're out there. And if you're on Twitter, retweet the show. Great way to get it out to people that might not see it on a regular basis. Donnie, let's kind of get it going here.
Yeah, you know what, but Jeff, let's set the parameters here, because for this show, I mean, look, we're going to be on for about an hour here. There's a million games out there. If you have a question in the chat box, don't just say, what do you think about Alcorn State today? Give us the rotation number. We'll try to hit on it there, and we'll sort of take it that way. I'll tee up the big man. He's ready and focused on College Football Day, so I have it where it goes. Do you have a game, Jeff, that you want to start with, that you want me to tee you up with, and then we'll sort of take it by the fly?
No, I'm pretty much open on everything. I do want to kind of make it clear yet again. One play that I do have my eye on, and it's something that I talked about at IFBC. I'll kind of reinforce it here on this show. It's important that you're looking at these added games. There's a lot of value in these games. You know, if you're looking at some of these, if you can find your lower level D1 team against a good FCS team, it's generally a right for an upset. You look at a game like I've talked about at IPC, 271, 272. North Carolina A&T against East Carolina. It's a big game for East Carolina. This is not an easy opponent to start your season out, especially on a team that's rebuilding, that has a freshman quarterback at the helm. A&T, Donnie, fourth best defense in the FCS last year. They're a top 10 team coming into the season. They have a quarterback named Lamar Renard. Donnie, he has never lost a game at North Carolina A&T. He's 26-0. You look at East Carolina, Donnie, this team in 5 years has only won 29 games, okay? So, again, you look at what Renard's been able to do. He's really been terrific, frankly. This is a tough football game against a tough defense, against an offense that can move the football. You're getting a full touchdown and a half here, basically 7.5 points. I'm gonna look towards the Aggies here of North Carolina A&T. I think they could pull the upset against a team in East Carolina that really has no business laying points to literally anyone. Just kind of wrapping it up over with the added games. There are so many. I mean, obviously, doing your homework is obviously important. I look at a team like Baylor today. Baylor's laying a big number against Abilene Christian. Baylor is a team that I'm pretty high on this year. You look at what happened last year in their non-conference, and in their added game, they lose to Howard or Liberty, one of those, I forget. But Baylor's a team that I'm very high on. Upstart team. They have a real good offense this year. Don't be surprised if Baylor's a team that cover a lot of big numbers. They might just crush Abilene today. But, as the day goes on, I'll maybe throw a couple of those out. Those added games are tough to follow, especially if you don't know a ton about that. But, Donnie, let's start up at the top. I'm really just about whatever.
Yeah, you want to go? We'll go rotation. We'll spin it down. I see a lot of people trying to get some action out there, some, 241, 242. We'll try to catch up on those and keep it there. Why don't we start off with the first one of the day, Jeff? 151, 152 on the rotation, a noon game, Florida Atlantic, Oklahoma. We talked a lot about this in the offseason, setting up Lane Train going into Oklahoma. Oklahoma is going to start a kid that will be playing Major League Baseball with a nice $5 million bonus in his back pocket. If we take a look at some of the spread numbers, Jeff, 60% of the public lining up with Oklahoma, but you're going to lay a pretty good number. When we saw it open up originally, Jeff, over the summer, minus 21, you're laying 3 touchdowns at home here to Lane Kiffin's FAU squad. But we got a little bit of a bite back here. Despite 60% of the wagers, Jeff, coming in on Oklahoma, that line is now dipped to 19. So some of that money coming in, pushing that number down under 3 touchdowns. What can we look at? Because we know everybody was excited last year with FAU, the way they ended the season. They're going to, obviously, it's a Power 5 school. You're playing them in their backyard. It's going to be a tough game one way or another. But again, Baker Mayfield is gone. You have a new starting quarterback here. Is 3 touchdowns enough? What are some generalities in this game, Jeff, we can look at?
Well, I think the big question is who's going to be the quarterback for Florida Atlantic. I mean, you would imagine it's DeAndre Johnson, but Rafe Peavy's been involved, Chris Robeson, the Oklahoma transfer. They've been very mum on who the quarterback's going to be. As far as you and me, Donnie, I'm not a big fan of these schools that go with 2 or 3 quarterbacks at a time. I want a set starter, and to me, that shows me that they're not really sure on what they want to do. I also look at the fact of Devin Singletary. He's going to be the main point of this offense. He accentuates what they do on offense. Singletary is a good running back. But again, Oklahoma is a team that does have issues getting stops. So does Florida Atlantic at times. They'll struggle against a team like this. They struggled last year stepping up in competition. But, if I was getting 21, maybe I'd be more inclined to take the dog. But now that it's under 21, you have some money coming in on FAU. Oklahoma, Donnie, this is a kind of game that you look at, a Power 5 against a G5. There's a lot better athletes on Oklahoma. They have Kyler Murray. They have a pretty decent offense, actually a really good offense. If it was 21-22, I'd take the dog. But I think the number's right where it should be. So for me, it's a pass.
Jeff, interesting. You want a little interesting offside note here when you bring up the name Rafe Peavy, Jeff? Do you know I knew Rafe Peavy as a 2-year-old because his father was my college football coach, William Patterson University. His father played for the Denver Broncos for a year and a half. They're mostly practice squad player, but he has 2 Division I sons there. But it's kind of funny you bring that up because I remember him running around in his diapers at practice, Jeff. Now he's 22 years old and playing major college football. So how the hell old am I, Jeff? The starting quarterback today, I knew when he was 2 years old. Jesus.
Now, the other kid, is it Jazz PV or?
It's Rafe, and I could actually look that up there, but I believe both of them bounced around Division I there. But I believe you're right on that. I think that might be the last name there, the second kid. He had 3 kids. 2 kids turned out to be studs in football. Go figure.
Yeah, look, we're all getting older, Donnie, as they say, right?
We're getting real older now. No, it's interesting. So, getting in this game, I like it. Right off the top, you're going to get a good look of what, Lane Kiffin and the boys can actually do in this one. A couple more games we'll shift down to. And, Jeff, I want to bring this game up just because of the outside opinions that we've been having. Ohio State, if we take a look, 155, 156 versus Oregon State. On paper, it doesn't mean much. It's 39. We know if Urban Meyer is back there, he's probably running trick punts in the fourth quarter. The head coach not being on the sideline and you're laying almost 40 points in this game. Do they run it up? Do they take it easy? Do they not want to do things that maybe Urban Meyer would do? How do you approach a game like this with the coach out a monster number on opening day and all that turmoil surrounding Ohio State over the past month?
Yeah, I think people will say that there's a lot of turmoil, and there is with the coach, but I don't think the kids, I don't think it matters much to them. They're still running the practice the same way. Urban still is, I'm sure, talking with the coaches and people like that. I don't know. Oregon State's pretty bad. But at the end of the day, this is a lot of points to lay with a team that has had some issues off the field. But again, you look at these kids, they're high-level athletes. Ryan Day's done a pretty nice job from what I hear. You still have Kevin Wilson. You still have Greg Schiano there, guys that can keep these teams together. It's not like these teams are just running amok and everyone's doing what they want to do. I'd be more inclined to think that a team like this will crush their opponent as opposed to you look like a team like Maryland could be the other way around. Maryland has all sorts of issues, and you wonder if they have any interest in playing for that coach in that program. But Oregon State's a bad side. It's a game that I won't be laying just because it could be 45-7, and you just lose like that, and you kind of lose by a point or two. But it's a tough one. I'd be more inclined in this kind of situation, though. It's not like Urban got fired or he's suspended for 10 games. He'll be back in 3 games. And they still have a set goal. I'm sure they'll make that very clear to these kids. Look, we're Ohio State. They're not. We're a team that long-term has the ability to go to the college football playoff. They still have plenty of options. Dwayne Haskins, Mike Weber. They still have all sorts of good players. Nick Bosa on the defense. I would stay away personally, but I would be more inclined to take the big favorite in this certain situation.
Yeah, a couple of action games, Jeff, that are going to enter into the equation today, stepping up in competition, to say the least, which is what most MAC programs do early in the season, sort of those, yard mark games out there measuring stick type games that you can take into the season, because we've seen some MAC teams over the past have some really good success and win big time football games on the road. I'm not too sure what's going to happen today. Let's see, we got here 161, 162. Akron, Nebraska laying about 23, and then quickly 165, 166. It's just an awful football game to me, Jeff, here. But you know me, I'm a sucker for Kent State football. Kent, Illinois, that also ranging at 17s. Any maybe upsets that we can look at from the MAC this year, because the MAC had some pretty good high-level front-end teams. They were able to challenge good programs on the road. These two more of the bottom feeders there. Do you see anybody kicking up a fight, or since it's opening day, what can we check out on those?
Yeah, the thing about Kent State that people need to remember is they went out and got a new coach, and they're going to look totally different on offense. They have this flash-fast offense they're going to run. It's a lot faster, a lot quicker. This is a team that only scored 20 points against an FBS team last year. That was it. I mean, this is a bad team. They lost by 49 points against Illinois a few years ago. You look at these kids. I mean, that was in 2015. Those kids are 2018. If they're still with the program, they remember that sort of thing. You look at a team like Illinois. I mean, are they really kind of a team that should be laying 16, 17 points to anyone? But I talked with Gabe about this game, and Gabe threw out the factor of, well, this is one of those only opportunities where Illinois is going to have to beat a team pretty big. I think that Kent State's going to need some time to get that offense going a little bit. I think even against Kent at this number, Illinois probably still has some value. I mean, it's going to take time to get that offense going. And just because you want to run a new offense doesn't mean it's going to be effective. Donnie, when you're running an offense like this, you need good players. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it doesn't look like Kent has many of those.
No, they're affectionately known for me, Jeff. They're on the upswing, let's say, because if you've watched Kent State over the past couple of years, especially on offense, it doesn't really get any worse in college football. So new regime change in there. We'll see what happens, but they're a few years away from rolling through. But it's kind of funny when you see Illinois line up in this one. I would love to see Kent State put up a fight, because I'm not a big fan of any Lovie Smith going to Illinois or what he's done with the Illinois program at all. But it is, 3 touchdowns. We do see them offensively challenged, but a little bit easier start to the season, Jeff, for Kent State this year, because last year, I think if you remember, did they not open up against Alabama game 1, I believe?
I
or was it maybe like an FCS program and then got Alabama? Because I remember that game, and I think it was like maybe 6-3 early or something like that, where Kent State was trying to hang on, but quickly got shelled in that game.
Yeah, no, I think it was. And look, Kent State's bad. This new offense will probably work, but I don't think it's something that long term will be something that I want to get involved with. Donnie, let me throw out a game here that I kind of have my eye on. I'm looking at Ole Miss against Texas Tech. I see Ole Miss as an underdog. This was a game that I was very close to giving out as a play for myself. I don't really understand why Texas Tech's a favorite here. I know Ole Miss is a team that, again, they have a new coach, and they're going through some off-the-field problems with their program. But I think Mississippi State's a much better team. I think they really like Matt Luke. I think they're ready for big-time football again down in that area. I like this matchup. I think people are buying in maybe too much with Texas Tech. I think their defense has improved, but I still think at the end of the day, is this a defense that's going to control you the whole game and only give up 17 points? I don't know if they're built like that. I feel like if they have to get into a shootout, they will. If they get to get into a shootout, I love Ole Miss. Tamu is a great quarterback that really kind of filled in admirably for Shea Patterson, then it almost won the job. You look at this game, though, and it has all the makings of a shootout. I have a feeling Ole Miss will score, a touchdown or two here. Texas Tech's going to have to score points. McLean Carter's going to have to move the football. I think this could turn into a shootout pretty quickly. But if it does, I really like Ole Miss in that situation. Donnie, I hate Cliff Kingsbury. Can't stand this guy. I think he's an awful coach. And I think this is one of his final years. He's just not been good enough. I like what Ole Miss does. I like some of the players they have. A.J. Brown is one of the best receivers in the country. I think this is a big-time game for Ole Miss. New era, new coach, new team. And this football team on offense is pretty good. And I think defensively they're a little bit underrated as well. Give me Ole Miss. I'm going to recommend them as a free play here against the Red Raiders. +1.
Yeah, going on the road, Jeff. Even split, almost 50-50 in bets there. One of the more highly bet games of the day, Jeff, that won at rotation 197, 198. Over-under, Jeff, seeming to get some money as well. If you looked at Chris, they opened at a 62. Pinnacle opened at a 67. Now we're seeing around 70.5 to 71 right now.
Yeah, I mean, the total is kind of moving. I mean, it's went up, and I think people are thinking kind of the same way I am. This maybe will be one of those games that turns into a bit of a shootout. 71's a bit high. I mean, you look at like a 40 to 28 game as a loser, or something like that. But I guess people are hoping this is 38-35 or something like that. It will be tough because I think both teams have improved a little bit on the defensive end. Could be one of those games where maybe for a quarter, they kind of feel each other out. For me, I think the better plays decide. I think you just have a better football team getting points here. So I don't have much feel in the total, but you have a number that has moved significantly upwards. People are thinking this one's going to turn into a shootout. This could be 38-28, Donnie.
Yeah, no, we got some line movement also in this next one, Jeff, starting at 12 o'clock, 173, 174. Texas and Maryland, Jeff. 74% of the wagers coming in on the Texas Longhorns with Tom Herman. Line opened up around 9-10. Now you see some significant line movement, Jeff, almost crossing over that 14 number at 13.5. I know a lot of people that we've talked to over the summer, very high on Texas, and now you're looking at that swirling program in Maryland. What's actually going to happen with that, as we saw the tragedy in the offseason with the death of one of their football players, investigation. They're going to take culpability on that. Now you got to line up and play some football here, Jeff. Is that line movement indicative of the awful offseason Maryland had? What can we expect out of this game?
I think the overall mood in Maryland is, it's not a good one. I think people are kind of piling on them in the market here. I don't think people have any reason to think that this team will play for this program today. I mean, you have to keep in mind, one of the players died, under their control. This is a guy that, think about you, Donnie. You were in college, you played football. Yeah. Think if one of your teammates died because of practice. Wouldn't you kind of have an issue with some of the coaching strategies? Kind of be like, whoa, why am I, they killed one of my friends. This is kind of a hard one to focus on. And, luckily it's at home. I guess they'll have the fans there to kind of, you don't have to, if this was a game you had to travel to, that'd be even more difficult. But Texas is good. I like Ehlinger. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I like both their quarterbacks, but again, another situation where you have two quarterbacks. Another concern here, Donnie, is this game is not in Maryland. It's actually at FedEx Field, so not in College Park here. I think Texas will take care of Maryland. I think Maryland's just in too weird of a situation right now. This is not one of your situations you want to get in. The other situation we talked about, that's just a coach who's not there. This is a coach that's not there. Someone passed away with the program. But, Donnie, this is why these are so difficult, because maybe you can say, I don't know. I don't exactly know what's going on in the Maryland program. Maybe they come out and play hard for their friend. Matt Canada is a pretty good offensive guy. He can get this group. Kasim Hill's a good player.
Pig grow me.
Yeah, but if I had to guess, I would say I think Texas wins like 34-10. I think Maryland has a lot of trouble. Texas's defense is very good. This is a tough situation. It's hard to wonder about the subdued environment and how it would affect them. I think it won't affect them well.
Yeah, 4 or 5 point movement there, because you're right. You can look at it two ways, because technically, they're still kids, they're still coaching staff. You don't know how much that actually plays into it. So if you're one of those contrarian type bettors, you might say, hey, look, I'm going to bet on that they were able to move forward from this. It was a couple months ago, not just 2 or 3 weeks ago that it happened. You might be getting that public perception. They're getting the free 4 points in that game. So it's an interesting one, which we want to segue right over here. Jeff, let me take a look here for the North Carolina-California game, 203-204. Another interesting situation, which it's one of those games, Jeff, where it says, the public might think it's a little bit easier than what it is. You got the shoe sneaker scandal at North Carolina, a couple kids suspended there. Everybody jumps on California, 67% of the betting public. Line opens up at 5.5, somewhere in that range. Now sitting at around the touchdown. Are we making too big of a deal out the kids that are suspended this one? Because I know a lot of people jumped right away. The minute that suspension came out, boom, I'm going to take the Cal Bears in this one. Maybe a little sneaky side from North Carolina. You just see Carolina's the better team anyway. It's only an added bonus here.
13 players are suspended for UNC, which is I mean, a lot of them, and we looked them up, a lot of them are starters. A lot of them are depth guys. You know, that hurts. I mean, you're going to have players that really don't belong on the field tonight, on the road in Cal. Here's another issue North Carolina has. This team has been horrendous against the run. I mean, they've been the worst rushing defense each of the last 5 seasons in the ACC. They allowed 213 rushing yards per game last year, 21 rushing touchdowns. This was a bad team against the run. And you have to figure this year, Cal's going to want to get going in the run game. They weren't great last year there, but they have a new player, Patrick Layard, who was a pretty nice surprise. He kind of filled in admirably for Trey Watson that moved on. I think for me, I've talked about Cal, though. Cal, for me, is a team more that I'm interested in as an underdog. In this spot, they're kind of in weird waters here. I'm not in love with this one. I'd lean Cal just because I think there's just too many players suspended. Your quarterback's out. This is a tough thing to do on the road. Larry Fedora lost a lot of talent last year. He's basically in the same situation. And without that talent last year, they were pretty bad. This is a tough cross-country track. I don't know if it'll be a blowout or anything. I think it's like, 34-24, something like that. But I want to make this clear going forward. I'm not looking to lay points with Cal. I'm only really looking them in the dog roll.
No, I hear you there. Keep moving, Jeff.
Hey, Donnie.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, someone asked about Temple and a little.
Get in it. Yep, Temple Nova today. The Battle of Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is kind of turned in. If you know anything about the basketball programs, this is a pretty solid rivalry. Villanova's had our number, but these schools, Donnie, for anyone that's not from Philadelphia, these schools do not like each other. I hate Villanova. I hate everything they encompass. They're a team, Donnie, that as a whole, Villanova are kind of the guys on the out of the city. They're not even in the city. They're kind of they act like they're better than everyone. Villanova. Temple's more the rugged inner city program that gets really good athletes and is always going to be tough. These schools don't particularly like each other, but in this case, Temple football is basically taking care of business because they're a D1 program and Villanova's not. I think Temple this year is a really good program, and I'm excited to see. I'm definitely going to be down there watching some football games this year. I like what they have with Frank Newtile, quarterback. Finally, Donnie, a quarterback that you can kind of get behind. They're not dealing with this pogo stick stuff at quarterback going back and forth. I like Raquel Armstead. They need to get the football team going a little bit better on the ground. They had kind of a weird offseason. David Hood, one of the running backs, retired, which was kind of random. But, Armstead and Gardner will pretty much lead the way in the run game. I think the receivers are a couple of the best in the conference. Isaiah Wright's really good. Their offensive line's very good. They have a guy named Matt Hennessy, Donnie. He is an NFL caliber type of player. He's a Remington Award kind of guy. Defensively, have pretty good defensive ends. Michael Dogby, a 6'3", 280 freak athlete, kind of reminds you a little bit of maybe what Hassan Reddick could be. I think they're fine. I think this is a good football team, and I think they'll challenge to win this conference. I really believe that. I do think UCF's obviously the best team, but Temple's a team that's going to be in the mix. They're in year 2 of that Jeff Collins era. I think today they're laying 16.5, 17. It's always a tough game because Villanova are generally very good, especially in that FCS level. But Temple, I have to think long season. I think they're going to be a team to bet on. They've been a very good team against the spread over the years. So as far as this game, it's going to be a pass for me. But I think Villanova, I think Temple's a team that you have to be kind of interested in long term.
Jeff, one of our loyal listeners out there, Gwan White, definitely wants to hear your opinion on this one. 201-202, 3:30 Eastern time kickoff, Jeff, West Virginia and Tennessee. 67% of the betting public going to line up here on the Mountaineers. Not a lot of line movement, though. Pinnacle, Jeff, opened up at 9.5, and across the board right now, sitting at 9.5, over under between 60 to 60.5. A lot of people betting this game here. Any one way or another what you're looking forward to in this one?
Yeah, this is, I want to say it's a clash in styles. I believe that because it is. I mean, you have West Virginia, that gaudy offensive team that runs, that air raid. They're going to go quick. They're trying to hit you vertically. Tennessee more of the team that I think is going to want to try to establish the run, short passes, just kind of try to stay in the football game. I think defensively they have a new identity. I think they have a new identity as a program. They haven't won in a long time, but I think Tennessee made the right hire. They went out and got some good players, and I think long-term they'll be okay. But, if I'm getting 10 here, I'd take Tennessee, but anything below 10, I'm going to probably just stay away from it. I think if it turns into a shootout, that's obviously bad news for Tennessee. And if it does, West Virginia should roll. But I think this is a clash in styles, and I don't like clash in styles games, Donnie. I generally want some kind of edge. I don't know if I see a ton of edges for Tennessee. The edge for me would be that 10-point number. I would probably be more interested if I was getting 10, 12, 13. At 9.5, I look at it also and say, well, maybe they're goating you into taking West Virginia here. It's only 9.5. Tennessee has some good players, and maybe they can hang in this game. If it turns into a shootout, that's bad news for Tennessee. But Pruitt's had all sorts of time to prepare for this. We know he's a defensive guy. I get a feeling he's got something for West Virginia. I'd lean with the dog here.
Jeff, let's go to a big banging game tonight, going on 8 o'clock. A little SEC action versus ACC, Louisville versus Alabama. I know you're on a panel out at the IPC with Joe Lisi, who's actually high on Louisville in this game. Jeff opened up around 25.5. You're seeing a little bit of a buyback there. 23.5, some 24s on the board, 61.5 as the over-under, which really crept up because you're looking at 55s, 53s where it opened from. How about Alabama tonight? And some interesting words from Nick Saban, Jeff, that said both quarterbacks will play tonight. I don't know what that means if they're going to split every other series, which is absolutely ridiculous, especially when you have a younger quarterback there in Tua. But then you're going to go back to Jalen Hurts. You're going to get him some, maybe you don't want to lose him for the season, so you keep him activated, which I don't agree with. I think you roll with your quarterback who you think is your best quarterback and let him play until the game is out of reach and let the backup get in there. What can we look at, Jeff, from this tilt tonight here?
Yeah, Joe Lisi thinks that Louisville can win. I don't think there's any way that happens. It's kind of weird, though, because generally if you like a dog, you wait it out because the public will come in late and take the favorite. But it's a different story here. Louisville's actually gaining some money here, and the numbers went down a bit. Look, if you didn't get 25.5, 25, I think you probably lost the boat here. You're starting to see this creep down a little bit. And when money's going against Alabama, that's always a concern because Alabama is just a lot better than everyone else. But I think Louisville has the tonic to hang around here. I mean, Juwan Pass is a guy. Bobby Petrino will throw till the game's over. He's not going to worry about that. They have a pretty good offense. They have some good receivers, Seth Dawkins, Des Fitzpatrick. They can move the ball. And I'm down on Alabama defensively this year. Look, they're not going to be horrible, but I don't think they're what they were last year. They always will reload and everything. But I do think there's some holes at points in their defense. You also mentioned the quarterback situation. I don't think we've seen this, Donnie, in a long time of one of these quarterbacks who literally played a half get this much love from a group of people. It's amazing. It really is. This guy could be a total hack. And you guys are laying 4 or 5 to 1 for him to win the Heisman. Look, could he be a great player? Sure. I mean, we saw that. But let's see how he does when a team has 6 months to prepare for him. For me, I've said before, and I'll say it again, I would take the points as opposed to laying them here. But we've seen these Alabama teams, when I feel like when people are kind of against them, generally they come out. And I remember last year, Donnie, against Vanderbilt, everyone seemed to be on Vanderbilt in that game. They win, 59-0. But Saban usually struggles in out-of-conference games against the number, especially laying this amount of points. With the quarterback kind of off, you don't know who you're going to go with maybe a few holes on defense. And with the ability to pass to move the ball, I would take the points here.
Jeff, we're going to have some regime change games. Now, again, we have limited time here, so we want to try to hit as many as we can and try to give you some tidbits there. But there's 3 games that we'll go over, and almost right in the same rotation, Jeff, starting with 185, 186, BYU, Arizona. And then you have UTSA versus Arizona State, and then Cincinnati, UCLA. 3 big coaching changes in all these movements. If we take a look at some of the lines out there, Jeff, that BYU-Arizona game sitting opened up around 15, 2 touchdowns, now sitting around 10, 10.5, depending on where you're shopping at. Arizona State versus UTSA, that line opened up at around 17. Not much movement there. But then we see Chip Kelly's UCLA squad with about 56% of the public out there, opened up around 16.5, 15.5. That's dipped a little bit to 14.5. When we're looking at regime change type moves here, how do you try to break that down or anticipate coming into game 1 what you're going to get on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think for like the Arizona BYU game, I think that was a good hire for Arizona. I think he's kind of the right guy for that group. I think Noel Mazzoni is going to help Khalil Tate considerably. I think that's a great hire, and I think they're going to do some good things. I actually like. I told Gabe last night, Donnie, BYU Arizona. That was another game I was close to going with as one of my picks. I like the over in that game. The problem is for me, the total is like 61 and a half. I was hoping to be more in the high 50s. That was kind of my tipping point for that one, 57, 58. It's up to 61. So, I mean, I look at this game. Arizona will be able to score. That's just what they do. Khalil Tate will move the ball. They go quick. There's not going to be much in the way of stoppages in that game. I think BYU is an improved offense. They can't be much worse. If Tanner Mangum can stay healthy, I don't think they'll have a ton of issues moving the ball against Arizona. That's one that I kind of had my eye on. The other ones, I think UCLA will be a good football team down the road. I'm not a big Wilton Spade fan, so for that reason, I'm not really interested in UCLA, at least for the first few days of the season. UTSA, Arizona State. I like the Herm Edwards hire. I don't know how much of the actual game plan he comes up with. I think he's more of a motivational, rah-rah recruiter kind of guy. Hey, I'll take care of your kid when he's out here. And I believe him. I think from that standpoint, Donnie, I don't think there's any other person I'd rather have coaching my son. Herm Edwards is a guy that I'd want my son around. I'd want him to be taught the game by a guy like Herm Edwards. On the field, I'm not in love with it. I don't know how great he'll do on the field. I still think he's a smart football guy, and I still think he'll bring the right people around him, and I think he'll do fine there. He's got a good quarterback. N'Keal Harry is a terrific receiver. They have some pieces there at Arizona State. Dalton Sturm, Texas San Antonio, they're down a bit. Don't be surprised if Arizona State shot a little bit, but it's hard to ever trust them with the defense they possess. They just don't get a ton of stops.
Jeff, one of the games of the day we'll look at here, 193, 194, 3:30 kickoff Eastern time. You're going to have Washington and Auburn back down in SEC country. Line opened up at 2.5. Jeff, not a lot of movement here. A lot of wagers on this game, 50-50 betting side. I know you're pretty high on Jake Browning out there now. He's going to get another shot at an SEC team. Are we looking at Washington? Because if you watch some of the channels out here and some of the pundits that are going back and forth on this game, they're talking about it's like this is one of those Pac-12 show me games because nobody believes in the Pac-12. This game isn't at home in Washington. It's not on the left coast, as we like to say. You're heading back down to SEC territory. Can Washington go in there and win this game?
I think they definitely can. And I think for me, it's more or less of Washington needs to find a way to win this game. If they lose this game, you have to figure that their chances of going to the college football playoff are done after 1 week. They need to find a way to get the job done here. This is a big game. I give them the respect for going out and scheduling like this. A couple years ago, they had the problem of, Donnie, they were good. They were a college football playoff type of team, but they didn't play anyone and they're out of conference. So I think they were kind of looked down upon. They did find a way to get in that year, though. Here's my big concern for Auburn. I think that Auburn is a team that is very good. I like their defense. I think Stidham's a good quarterback. They have a pretty good run game. The big question mark for me is their offensive line. This team gave up a lot of sacks last year. They lost a few even really good players on their line, particularly Braden Smith, who was an all-SEC guard. I really like what I'm seeing out of this Washington defense. I think they can really move around on defense. I think they have one of the best secondaries in the country, and I wonder if that offensive line is going to be kind of the issue for Auburn this year. I see way too many sacks coming up. You look at in their 4 losses last year, Donnie, Auburn gave up 23 sacks. That's a lot of sacks. That's the key to any football team is the up front lines. Greg Gaines, Donnie, is a terrific nose tackle. Shane Bowman, Jalen Johnson on the ends. The secondary's very good. They have good linebackers. I think Washington's a slightly better football team. I think they can go in there. I think Browning has a big year. I actually picked him to win the Heisman Trophy. I like what they have at Washington. I like Gaskin. I think it's a close game. It's a real toss-up, but I'm getting points here. I'm gonna take Washington.
All right, Jeff, we got a little bit of chat box action here. DJ1 Mike, 171, 172, Northern Illinois and Iowa. If we take a look at that game, Jeff, opened up, let's just say about 13, 14 and a half, and a buyback there with Northern Illinois now dropping to under 10 points at 9.5 across the board. We've seen NIU, Jeff, go on the road in big spots and win games. A little bit different team heading into this one. Carey may be on the hot seat for the first time there with his MAC play, needing to get some of these pile-up wins, but not the easiest play and go on the road. But one thing that you do like here is Iowa's not the type of team, Jeff, that I know you look at a lot saying, are there enough athletes to cover the field? Because Iowa's not really going to spread you out and say, we have more athletes, we're going to beat you with that. They're going to play a hard-nosed football style, which may play right into NIU's wheelhouse at this point. But that line now under 10, are we looking a little bit too much at this MAC team saying they're going to go on the road and hang around? Because that's what's expected here. You're not getting any longer, close to that 2-touchdown range. Talk about, can one of these MAC teams go and surprise a team like Iowa, who, again, as I said, not that spread option team that's just going to out-athlete you out there.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Donnie. I mean, they're not going to out-athlete anyone. And as we know, Marcus Childers a good quarterback. Rod Carey, a good coach. You lose a lot on defense last year. I know you still have Parker Hesse for Iowa. There's some good players there, but you lose Josie Jewell. You lose some corners as well. They generally refocus and recalibrate, but you're giving a team in NIU who's pretty good 10 points. I mean, that's a pretty good group. And offensively, you look at also the fact that you lose Akram Wadley, you lose James Daniels, your center, you lose Matt Vandenberg, your receiver. That's a lot of big-time talent that's lost. It generally takes some time to get those players going. Sutton Smith is an absolute load for Northern Illinois. Generally, these teams give Iowa problems. I'm not sure that I see 10 points difference. I was a team that generally get by with a bad schedule. I have a feeling that Northern Illinois kind of hangs around in this game. I would take the points here.
Jeff, public perception game we all like to look at, especially early in the season. You already saw Wyoming go out to a victory. Now, not an impressive one over a really good football team, but they were still in the national spotlight in that game, picked up the victory. And I know a lot of people would just say, wait a second, Mike Leach, Washington State. I'm looking at this line, and it's only 3. Give me Washington State all day long. Power 5 school versus a smaller school. They lost Josh Allen to the NFL. They can't have much left. I know they won last week, but Washington State is a much bigger program. Just give me the 3 and I'll lay with it. What are we looking at in this game? Maybe Wyoming can hang around, or maybe the offseason again, as we talk about some turmoil there with Washington State. Maybe they can't get over the hump with the new quarterback in there. Not a new system change at all, but just some of the things surrounding Washington State in the offseason. Talk about this game a little bit, that one team has played, one team is theoretically better on paper, just from a bigger conference. How do you approach this game?
Donnie, you cut out for me. What was the game? Sorry.
I'm sorry about that. 205, 206. We're just talking about public perception, like Wyoming. They already played one game. Washington State out there. A little bit of turmoil in the offseason with the quarterback, taking his own life, which is a damn tragedy out there. But now getting back to play, the point I was going to get to was Washington State. Most people are going to say, how is it only 3 points? I'm just going to ride Washington State here. Yeah,
I like Washington State. I've always liked Mike Leach. Obviously, you mentioned terrible tragedy out there. You lose Helinski. He commits suicide. But, you went out and got Gardner Minshew. Minshew is a player that was at East Carolina. If you know anything about the Pirates, they were able to move the football this year. It wasn't like, they were just dreadful. They got crushed on defense. They could move the ball. I mean, and that was Minshew. He can move the ball. He's perfect for the situation that Washington State's in. He's perfect for that offense. They have a lot of really good receivers, as always. Mike Leach has good players out there. My big thing with Wyoming is, are they as good as what we saw last week? And I don't think they are. I think defensively they're a good team, but this is a total different team you're going to face this week. And I think Wyoming is a team that obviously will struggle facing Washington State, on offense. I don't think it'll be as easy to move the ball. And at any rate, were you blown away at what Wyoming did offensively? I don't know that I was. I mean, they're not going to be able to move the football on the ground as easy. New Mexico State and Washington State are much different opponents. I think people are starting to kind of buy in a little too much to Wyoming. I think it's a lower scoring game, but I'm willing to say that I lean Washington State. The concern that I have on why I didn't play this one is it's in Laramie. And I know it's very tough to get to Laramie. It's 6,000 feet above sea level. It's tough to play there. It just is, no matter where you go. It's thin air. It does add in another dimension. But I listened to Mike Leach's coach's show, all the stuff he talked about. Mike Leach is obviously, Donnie, a very much an open guy. I don't think he hides a ton. He was fairly positive about this football team and going into their season. I think Wyoming's a bit of a farce. I would go with the better team and program here.
No, I hear you there. Yeah, we've got about another 10, 15 minutes here left in the show. If anything is out there that you guys would like to talk about here, we'll try to get some of these games fit in there. Gerald, 219, 220, FSU play of the day. Well, it might be the play of the day, Jeff, but I'm not too sure they actually play today. You do have some decent game Sunday and Monday, which I always like because it extends that, holiday football weekend right into the barbecue season and take a look at. In the meantime, before we get some stuff there in the chat box, Jeff, I know you're heavy in the FCS. There's a boatload of FCS games out here that are lined, and I know these lines come up quite late in the week, but I know you have your eye on any one of these lower level teams, Jeff, that you have your eye on at this point?
Like I said, I think A&T is definitely one that I'm looking at. Buffalo, Donnie, is a team that I think are prototypically perfect for crushing a team like Delaware State. If you don't know, Delaware State's in the MEAC. They're arguably one of the worst teams in both divisions. Savannah State, they're in the same conference. Both teams are particularly poor. To put into perspective how bad Delaware State is, I've actually laid, Donnie, 50 points against Delaware State. They lost 79-0. The only reason I didn't make the money is they called the game early.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your problem there. If the game's played, Buffalo will kill Delaware State. Anthony Johnson's very good quarterback. I'd imagine they really handle their business. Another team I had my eye on a bit is Richmond. The Spiders are a pretty good FCS team. They're always a team kind of in that top 25. Virginia team on the rebuild a little bit. I'm not venturing to think Virginia is much improved from last year. I think maybe you can consider taking a shot with Richmond here. The Spiders, always a good football program. They were very good last year offensively. I think they were top 10, Donnie, in passing offense. And you're putting some pressure on that Virginia secondary. Virginia lost a lot last year. I'm just kind of throwing some out here. Maybe take a shot with Richmond if you get the right number. They're a pretty good program to keep your eye on. Couple of blowouts that could be in progress. South Florida against Elon. Not a huge number here. Obviously Charlie Strong has some players down there still. You have those Florida athletes. What else do we have? Grambling State, they're a team to keep your eye on. Grambling, always a good team out of the SWAC. Couple others. Are there any blowouts in this card? Probably Florida. They should crush Charleston Southern. Baylor, I think they crush Abilene. Keep your eye out for South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits are a top 15 team. They get a pretty tough one against Iowa State. Yeah, for me, the ones I'd have my eye on would be Buffalo against Delaware State, maybe Richmond against Virginia, North Carolina A&T against Eastern Carolina, Clemson probably against Furman, and Georgia against Austin Peay.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through a couple of these games that we could take a look at here. Let's see. South Carolina State plus 28.5 is tempting. Go against East. There you go, Jeff. Here's a good one from Derek Miller for you. Go against East Carolina. They are horrible. How about that sentiment?
Yeah, we've been there, done that, brother. No, we've been talking about that one. Joe Everett. I want to comment, Donnie, on Joe Everett. Joe Everett knows what he's talking about. He works for a NFL draft website. He knows these players. He knows these schools. He's a good handicapper. He knows what he's talking about. I agree with him on that South Carolina State game. South Carolina State, a pretty good team out of the MEAC. They're getting over 4 touchdowns against Georgia Southern, a team on the rebuild, a team that runs the football. I don't hate that play there by Joe Everett. That's a good call. 181, 182, SMU, UNT. Gabe and I talked about this one. Gabe mentioned that he thought this was one of the best players on the board this weekend. He liked the over. It's hard to envision, Donnie. We don't see a high-scoring shootout here. Neither of these teams give much care on defense. Neither of these teams don't do anything but go quickly offensively. Mason Fine should have a big year. He had over 4,000 yards last year. You think Ben Hicks should have a big one as well. I don't think either of these teams have much interest in playing defense today. You look at last year, 54-32. I think it's a bit different game from an outcome perspective. I don't think much changes from a scoring perspective. I think it's a 41-38 kind of game. I do kind of like North Texas in this one. I think they're the better team. I don't like Sonny Dykes. And I think if anyone's going to get a stop when they need one, I feel like it's North Texas. I kind of like the mean green in this game at home. Donnie.
Yeah, how many times did we talk about it last year, Jeff? Find the Guyton. I mean, there's not too bigger matchups that they're going to like in that game. So you're looking at two teams that want to go fast, and you're right. It's about scoring in this game. They should be able to go back and forth. One would think they probably have some pretty decent weather down there. One game that's interesting, Jeff, 183-184, just below that. Middle Tennessee State and Vanderbilt. It's one of these games in the past where we know how good the quarterback play can be at Middle Tennessee State, and their offense can move it. But that same sort of like trap feeling that you had last year, because you thought Middle Tennessee State would be able to maybe hang or beat with Vanderbilt, when Vanderbilt really shut them down and said, look, we're an SEC program that's going to come in here and, even though we're Vanderbilt, push us around. Same type of line in this game again, Jeff. Can we believe in Middle Tennessee State, or is Vanderbilt just going to say, we're just bigger, stronger, and tougher, deal with it?
It's funny, Donnie. The last 2 years, these teams have played each other and the same line,
yes,
the same outcome. And I don't really know how you can think that it's going to be much different this year. I mean, if anything, I thought last year Middle Tennessee had the best opportunity. I thought offensively, you liked what they had with Richie James, Ty Lee, Stockstill was there. I don't know. I'm not high on Middle Tennessee just because I think they lost a lot. I wonder if Stockstill can ever stay healthy. I don't know. It's a real tough game. I would think Vanderbilt would be able to take care of business and just say, well, we're an SEC team. We're better and faster at every position, basically. It could be a higher scoring game. I think if anything, Stockstill can move the ball. I think he will have some success moving it. What is the total in this game, Donnie?
It's 57.5, Jeff.
Yeah, I think it could be, a game that could get into the 60s, maybe 38-27, something like that. I would lean over. I think Vandy will have a lot of success moving the ball. I don't think Middle Tennessee is going to put up much of a fight defensively. Stockstill, we know he'll throw the ball till his arm falls off. That's kind of what they do at MTSU. And I guess you kind of hope defensively they're improved a little bit. Scott Schaefer did a decent job there, but I still think against an SEC team, they're still going to have trouble. At the number that it's at, I lean Vandy and I lean over.
Jeff, Hugh Direction, I guess we can say that. I will be at the Baylor UTSA game next week, Jeff. So, guy's making his rounds down to Texas.
Yeah, well, make sure you don't introduce yourself with that name. Clever. Let's put it that way. Clever name, at least. Thanks, Derek Miller. Appreciate it. Clemson at -49. I mean, if you want to take Furman, go ahead. I mean, it'd be Clemson or pass for me. What's up, I2 Kid to Groove? Welcome in. Thanks, Hugh. Thanks to everyone for listening. As always, we appreciate it. A lot of people in here right now. Hopefully you enjoy your Saturday, first full day of college football. DJ Big Boss, what's up? Met you out in Vegas. Good guy. Money coming in on Michigan, says Chris Lomas. Northern Arizona favored by 7 over Utep. How about that, Donnie? That's kind of the other level. It's a really bad FBS team against, an FCS team. And, Northern Arizona is a favorite here. You have to ask yourself, Donnie, for as bad as Utep is, should a D1 team really be an underdog against a D1 AA team? I'll say this, and here's what I'll say about UTEP. I think they're a dreadful football team. I think they could be the worst team in the country. But they do have a player named Quadriz Wadley. He can run the ball. He can keep them in the game. If you're getting 7.5 with UTEP, that's a game they really kind of need to win. I mean, I think they well understand they need to win that game. If I'm looking at that one, I would take the points, which I know is crazy because UTEP is so bad. But I don't think a D1 AA team should be laying points to any D1 team. I don't
Jeff, by the way, look at all the movement out here. Ole Miss pounded the -140. Good call, big man. Jeff, are you moving lines on the show right now? Something we don't. Is this off-screen action or something?
Yeah, I could be. That might be Donnie. Who knows? I don't think I am, but yeah. Thanks, Blaze. Maybe I am. I don't do NCAA, but my coworkers liking the show. Thank you, Ski Prophet. Ski Prophet, guy we met out at IPC.
Absolutely.
UTEP have a new coach. Yep. Dana DeMel. We'll see how he does there. He's got a big upload there to deal with. Any opinions on Marshall, Miami of Ohio? Yeah, Donnie. I don't know if you know this, but a kid I went to high school with is the secondary coach at Marshall, and I've heard through the grapevine they're not too happy, or they're not a team that has a particularly great group of guys back there. I think he'll do a nice job of coaching them up. He's a good football guy, but I think Miami of Ohio, I think they win some of these games that they should have won last year. If you remember them, they lost a lot of close games. I think at home, I like Miami of Ohio a little bit more than I like Marshall. Marshall's got a new quarterback, Alex Wagner, they're bringing in. Defensively, they have some question marks. I think Miami of Ohio needs a game like this. Gus Ragland needs to have a good game through the air. I'd probably be looking towards Miami of Ohio if I had to play this one. A&T down to 7. How about that, Donnie? I guess when I bet, things happen. Is it weird that the games that I'm giving out, the numbers are moving, boys?
Yeah, people are pushing numbers out there. It's a lot of fun on that.
And people are they're screenshotting this conversation, being, "Look at these fucking assholes. They think they're actually moving numbers." But yeah, no, I don't think we're moving numbers. But hey, maybe people are watching this and moving the number. Yellow Jackets in the read option crush their FCS team, says Jay Rowe. That's always a tough offense to prepare for. And, FCS teams don't see that a ton. And it depends where they are. Alcorn State, though, I don't know that I would say that they would be crushed by it. Alcorn State sees that in the SWAC a ton of SWAC teams run the triple option. So I think you should, look more into that game, brother. I don't think they're going to crush anyone. Alcorn State has seen that offense before, so it's not going to surprise anyone. Donnie, one more before we go here.
Yeah.
You're a big Frank Solich guy.
Yes.
Howard heading into to Athens here. Now, if you remember last year, Howard beat UNLV. Think they could beat another team in the first game of the season? They're getting 31.
That's a tough one. When you look at it, AJ Ouellette, Nathan Rourke are going to come back. Isn't it one of those games where you can just keep the ball on the ground and just say, we're just bigger physically and more tough than you? Because Rourke's the kind of guy that can get outside and throw the football. They got some advantages there for Ohio. I don't see that they're coming back. I think Ohio can walk away with this one. Yeah,
I'm sure throughout the offseason, Frank Solich made it a point to say, hey, you fuckers, these guys took care of business last year. Don't be that team. I think we'll be okay with that one. As far as wrapping it up here, Donnie, we'll look to do that. One or two of the plays that I have some interest in, I definitely like A&T, North Carolina A&T against Eastern Carolina, which I've talked about extensively on these shows. I like Ole Miss +1, and I like Washington. I think they beat Auburn tonight. But again, we went over a ton of games. Feel free to check back and listen in if you have an interest in that. We'll be back, obviously, next week as well with week 2 of college football, Donnie. It's been a long week. I've talked about these games ad nauseum, Donnie. Now it's time that we play the game. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all the commenters. Thanks to all the likes. Before you leave, hit the like button for us, please. We have 200, 300 people in here. We only have 32 likes. Hit the like button, please. It'll help us significantly. All of you have a great day. Donnie, thanks for everything. We will see you next week.